All right, who can I use for Uke? Who can I use for Uke?
I would go with Derek over there on the left. Or,
Derek, let's go. Let's go. Come over here.
Or Nick as well, right there, Lindsay's son.
That's all good. Derek's already out here. There's no reason. There's no reason to fire him if we haven't given him a test run yet. I'm gonna have you sit down. All right. Very first drill we're gonna go over, guys. Very first drill we're gonna go over is we're just gonna touch up on number one on freeing our primary hand. Let's understand that when you guys go in for a rear naked, you want to differentiate between your primary hand, which is I'm defining as the hand that goes around the neck, and the secondary hand, which is the hand that assists the primary hand in the strangle. Okay, so let's understand again when I'm saying today primary and secondary. By primary, I mean the hand that initially starts over my opponent's shoulder, closer to the neck. Secondary is the hand that starts under the armpit, more of a control hand, later on an assist hand. All right. First drill we're going to do today is we're going to practice a drill of getting rid of freeing our primary hand to be able to strangle. An educated and high-level opponent will understand that the one grip that they can get on our primary hand to be able to stop our advance of attack is an inside thumb, okay? It's very important that you all understand this, not only for defensive purposes, but so that you guys can actually drill what it's like trying to finish on somebody who's high level in skilled jiu-jitsu, okay? So let's understand that anytime I have a strangle arm over my opponent's shoulder, 95% of the time, a high-level opponent's gonna take the opposite side hand, they're gonna take their thumb, they're gonna mold their thumb to your wrist, and they're gonna grab this grip right here, okay? That's called inside thumb position, okay? The reason this grip is so effective in stopping my strangle is because it stops both my wrist and my elbow, okay? If you contrast that, say for example, a non-inside thumb position grip, this will initially create some resistance, and it can stop my wrist from getting up to his shoulder. But look at my elbow. Once I start to track, see how the elbow moves to the center line? The strangle is still advancing. Does that make sense? So again, for defensive purposes today, I want all of you guys, when you feel your opponent's arm come over your neck, I want you to take inside thumb position, grab your opponent's wrist, and understand that this is the most effective grip that you can initially take on your opponent to stop them from strangling. Because now when my wrist goes forward, neither my wrist nor my elbow can move, okay? Just keep that in mind, all right? Now, let's start to learn how to get rid of this grip. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna play a game here. When my opponent has this grip, he has to make a decision. He has to decide, am I gonna hide my pinky or am I gonna hide my thumb, all right? From here, oftentimes when your opponent gets this grip, they'll glue their thumb to their chest. Just the thumb part, yeah, beautiful, just like that. That will cause exposure of his pinky knuckle. If I can see the pinky, but the thumb is physically against his chest, watch how my second hand comes over the top. I take these three fingers right here, and with those three fingers, I attack that pinky knuckle. You guys see how I grip that pinky knuckle just like so? As I attack that pinky knuckle, my wrist bends like I'm trying to flex in a bodybuilding show. And as my wrist flex, I go down, you can hold on. I go down and away from the grip. Did you guys see that? So once again, I attack the pinky knuckle, my wrist flexes, and now I go down and away from the grip. Now, the question becomes, Coach, what if he hides his pinky? If he hides his pinky, he exposes his thumb. Does that make sense? So he has to do one or the other. If he exposes his thumb, my thumb comes inside his thumb, I strip, and now my wrist comes up. Make sense? So two options. Option one, I strip the pinky knuckle, my wrist breaks, and I go down and away. Or option two, he hides his pinky from me because he doesn't want me to grab it again. I grab his thumb. I strip inside the thumb with my thumb. This is completely legal. Don't grab the top of the thumb like this. You might get a ref that'll call foul on you. I put the meaty part of my thumb and the meaty part of his, just like so. And now from here, my wrist bends and I come over the top. Once you come over the top, only thing I want you guys to work on right now, we'll go step by step, is to anchor on the tricep. Don't anchor on the trap for now, anchor on the tricep. I'll explain why in probably next technique. Make sense? So one more time, we're gonna play a game. Can I see his pinky? Great. I'm gonna strip the pinky and go down and away. If I can't see his pinky, I can see his thumb. I'm gonna strip the thumb and come up. Once I do that, either one of them, I'm gonna take my hand and I'm gonna glue my hand right to the back of his tricep. On three, 1, 2, 3. Now, the question becomes, Coach, he has inside thumb position, but let's be honest with each other. Who normally plays on a strangle arm with just one of their hands? That's usually not what they do, right? Usually skilled opponents who feel a very heavy threat will not only include their primary hand, they'll include the secondary hand as well, exactly. So they'll double layer on that strangle arm, and they'll make it that much more challenging for you to advance with a strangle arm, okay? The good news is that the technique I just taught you guys still works very well in the primary hand. Double up. Good. Still works very well in the primary hand. Whether the pinky or the thumb is exposed, I can still free my wrist. The bad news is that because he has that second hand holding onto your wrist, he's making it a little bit more challenging for you to advance, okay? Again, our main goal here is gonna be the tricep initially. The tricep is our main goal. I know that a lot of times we wanna be very strangle hungry and get up to the trap muscle, but I'm telling you guys for now, go for the tricep first, okay? Now, what I want you guys to work on is that as my opponent is trying to provide resistance with that arm, the way we're gonna get to the tricep is I'm gonna take my hand and I'm gonna spider walk my way across his body all the way up to his tricep. And once I get to his tricep, I'm good to start advancing from there. I'll show you guys in the next technique what we're gonna do from there. But for now, we're just taking it step by step, just building from the foundations up, okay? So once again, same technique. You guys are still gonna strip the primary arm. But once you strip the primary arm, he has my wrist with his hand. Make sense? From here, again, I'm going to climb across his body with a spider walk. Sometimes you can do this by grabbing your own hand. So, go ahead. By grabbing your own hand, and you spider walk up your own hand. Once you spider walk up your own hand, you can start to find his chest and start to spider walk across his body until you go ahead and get to the tricep. Make sense? As long as he doesn't have your thumb, he won't be able to stop this action from occurring. You'll be able to find that tricep and your elbow will be advancing. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that now. On 3, 1, 2, 3. There are a couple philosophies of controlling and negating your opponent's defenses, which are mainly his hands, his shoulders, his head, and getting up to the rear naked, okay? If you've been in the sport for a while, you may or may not have noticed a while ago, one of the biggest trends in the sport was the use of my legs to control my opponent's arms, pin an arm down, and then from there I have a deficit, and then from the deficit I can work into rear naked. Excellent system. Professor John calls it the straitjacket system. It's an excellent system and it works very well. It's been proven at the very highest levels of the sport. However, Professor John will be the first to tell you, like anything with any weapon, any technique, any tactic, there are pros and there are cons, okay? And while the straitjacket system has an excellent pro of me being able to isolate one of my opponent's arms with the use of my legs while I retain both use of my arms, the con is that at some point your legs do have to release control of your opponent's hips and midsection in order to be able to attack the arms, okay? So while the pro is that you do gain an advantage in terms of 2 of my arms versus 1 of his, the con is that I do release some control in order to gain that advantage, okay? That opens the question, is there a way that I can gain an advantage with just my 2 arms versus his? And there is absolutely. And that is to constantly dominate top hand position. If you can dominate what I'm calling today the top hand position on your opponent, you will quickly find yourself in situations where you constantly have access to his head. Does that make sense? It's only times, go ahead, inside thumb, where you will see, go ahead, grab it, where you will see when my opponent has top hand position on me, that will stop me from being able to access his head, his neck, his jaw, and strangle him. Does that make sense to you guys? So whether it's top hand position with the primary hand or, switch hands, top hand position with the opposite hand, when he has top hand position, he stops me from being able to access his head. So obviously the conclusion is if I instead keep top hand position, he tries to stop me from getting access to his head, he can't. I'm gonna be able to access his head every time. There's nothing impeding me from my arm wrapping around his shoulder, his jaws, his neck, okay? So from here, once you guys get to this tricep position, your main priority at this point is to constantly keep top hand position, okay? What's he gonna do to try to stop you? Well, some guys are flexible enough where they can take this hand and physically try to reach your hand there, but the vast majority of guys are not flexible enough to do that, okay? So that's one of the beauties of this tricep position. That when I grab this tricep, he tries to reach with that hand, it's out of the question, okay? That's not true when I'm on the trap. Yeah, you guys see how you can reach that? Now he can reach that hand. So now it's 2 of his hands versus 1 of mine. Whereas when I anchor to the tricep, he tries to reach it, it's out of reach. It's very hard to reach, okay? There are a small subsection of people who will be able to reach there because they have such flexible shoulders, but typically the more flexible a guy is, the less strong they tend to be, generally speaking. And you can still win with the tactic I'm about to show you. That means my opponent only has one arm to fight my one anchored hand. How am I going to dominate the position so I can get my hand from his tricep all the way up to his trap? I keep top hand position. So watch this. As he tries to reach for my hand, nope, with the other one. Yep, exactly. I'm going to take my thumb, strip inside his knuckles, and I strip. And then I come back and I defend my hand. So as my hand starts to advance, he tries to go back to my hand, I defend my hand. As my hand keeps advancing, go ahead, you can reach with either hand. I dominate top hand position. As long as his arm can't dominate the top of my hand will advance. Does that make sense, you guys? So I play this game where I constantly strip his hands off my hand. If he puts a hand on my wrist, I strip it. Hand on my wrist, I strip it. Hand on my wrist, I strip it. And once I strip, get up to his trap muscle, from there now it's time to rear naked. Cross wrist over wrist, knuckles on the back of the head. One more time, wrist over wrist, knuckles on the back of the head. Wrist over wrist, knuckles on the back of the head. Don't do this. This works in the Hallmark channel, okay? But it doesn't work against a really skilled opponent, okay? So one more time. Once I anchor to the tricep, now I play a game where I defend my anchor, right? This hand is my defensive hand. I strip and I attack his hands. From here, I strip as my hand advances. Look how I stay here. I don't fight down here and leave my hand exposed. I fight here and I come back. I fight and I come back. I fight, I come back. If you use the second one, same thing. See how I stay and I fight? I don't give him access to my hand. From here, I go wrist over wrist. My head comes into position. My knuckles go in the back of his head. And now it's time to finish the strangle. Okay? On three, 1, 2, 3. Let's understand that the one thing that can stop my strangle arm from advancing, other than inside thumb, is if he covers my thumb. Okay? So there are two things more than anything else that will stop my strangle arm from advancing no matter what. One is an inside thumb position. The second one is when my arm is free and there is no inside thumb, if he covers my thumb at any point. If he covers your thumb, you will feel it. You won't be able to advance with your strangle arm, okay? So now let's just quickly look at what to do if he covers my inside thumb. There are two ways that he's gonna cover my thumb. So he starts with his position. Go ahead, position, both positions, good. I strip, and I get my hand free. Now, if this guy's not that educated and experienced with having people on his back, he'll stay on my wrist. And as we've seen already, that won't stop me from advancing, okay? If this guy knows what he's doing, he's experienced, a high level opponent, what he's gonna do is that he knows if he stays on your wrist, it's not gonna work. So he's gonna cover your thumb with his hand, exactly just like that. And now when I go forward, I'm not gonna be able to advance, okay? You're gonna feel you're running straight into a wall, okay? Even with people that are weaker than you, you won't be able to advance, okay? Because it's their lat versus your bicep, okay? And most people in this room, your lats are way stronger than a bigger man's bicep because your lat is just a bigger muscle group, okay? So from here, as he covers my thumb, let's understand the more I try to go into the resistance, the less I'm gonna be able to break through. This grip, this inside thumb grip is very strong from the center line off to the far shoulder. So from here, when he holds on to this grip, it has strength from here, from the center line, all the way to this far shoulder is very strong grip. Ironically enough, the grip actually starts to lose a lot of strength on the near shoulder. He'll tell you he can feel the grip starting to go. So when I push into the grip, go ahead, I'm not gonna get there. All I do is retract, try to hold on to that grip. Just try to hold on to it. And you see how relaxed I am? And the grip comes off, magically, okay? The grip loses strength when you come to the near shoulder. From here, if I put my hand here, he covers his thumb here, easiest thing in the world to get my hand out. If I try to go into the grip, hardest thing in the world. So all I'm gonna do is when I come out, I strip and I come right back and I start walking, okay? So I just play a game where as he stops my thumb, and I come back and I start walking back, okay? If for some reason he leaves his hand in place, put your hand up. You have to cover your neck. Exactly. If they're covering their neck like this and you don't wanna go over the arm, that's not a problem. I take top hand position. I strip it down and I come back to the tricep and now I'm working again, okay? The only other situation where he can get inside thumb on your strangle arm is if you're on the shoulder. But we already saw how to defend that, right? When he goes to reach, I just leave my hand in the way, okay? So you guys already know that. The only other one I want you guys to work on is if he gets it on my route to the tricep. Yeah, I strip and I come back. Or if I strip and he goes up to his head, yeah, exactly, to defend, no problem. I strip his knuckles down and I get back to the tricep. Does that make sense, you guys? On 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, next one. Now, I had you guys practice from seated position initially in the class because honestly, it's one of the easiest places to learn rear nakeds from, okay? One of the main reasons why it's easiest to learn from there is because there are no wedges inhibiting the movement of both of your arms, okay? When I am in a seated position with my opponent, from here, there's, again, like I said, there's nothing inhibiting our movement. My arms can move in a full range of motion. My elbows can retract as far back as they want, okay? And nothing stops them from moving. However, that's not true when we're actually down on the mat, right? So 9 times out of 10, or I would say even higher than 9 times out of 10, you don't see people fighting for rear nakeds from here, right? Where do people fight for rear nakeds? Off their side, okay? Now, that last technique I taught you works really well when we are on the underhook side. Why? There's nothing inhibiting my right elbow, right? So as I strip and he grabs my inside thumb, watch how I can pull back and go right back for my attack, just like I taught you guys. That's not true if we are on the overhook side. If I'm on the overhook side, now when I, stay right there for a second. I strip his, now he gets my thumb, good. Now, what I just taught you guys of retracting your elbow, guess what? You can't retract your elbow. Why? The mat is physically in my way, okay? So it's nice when we're seated, and it's nice when we're on the underhook side. But when we're on the overhook side, I can't do that technique. So then the question becomes, Coach, what do I do then, all right?
Okay guys, if you've made it this far into the video, then it means that you're very invested into the material. I have been posting on YouTube for about a year now, and I'm pretty inconsistent with it sometimes, honestly, because sometimes I see the growth from the page according to what I post, and sometimes I don't, right? So one thing I'm going to do with this video is I'm going to put the power in your hands to see if you want to see the rest of the content. So what I'm going to do is, if this video reaches 5,000 views, I'll go ahead and I'll post the last couple techniques from this teaching session, including how to solve that nagging problem of when they grab your thumb and you're on the overhook side, okay? And it's not as simple as just switching sides, because your opponent's feet have direct contact with the mat. So they're the ones that are going to choose what side you play on ultimately. You don't get to choose that as the offensive player, which side you play on. That's their choice as the defensive man. That's the one advantage that they do have. All right. So if you want to see me post the rest of this video technique on my channel for free, like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Like I said, if the video reaches 5,000 views, I'll go ahead and I'll share the rest of the technique from this specific class that I taught.